Imagine this for a moment. You're holding a single penny, not a gold bar, not a stock certificate, just a quiet, ordinary-looking Lincoln cent that has been sitting unnoticed for decades. It's the kind of coin most people would flick into a jar, leave in a drawer, or hand over without a second thought. And yet, this specific penny has quietly crossed auction blocks for sums approaching $754,000. Yes, a 1975 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, born during a turbulent time in American history, now commanding life-changing money. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Thousands of Americans unknowingly owned one at some point. The real question is, did you let yours slip away? Or is it still hiding somewhere close to home? Welcome back. Today's story isn't just about a coin. It's about timing, awareness, and how wealth sometimes disguises itself as something ordinary. The year was 1975. America was adjusting after economic shocks. Inflation fears were real, and trust in financial systems was fragile. While most people were focused on survival, the U.S. Mint quietly produced Lincoln pennies that would later become some of the most sought-after error coins in modern numismatic history. No mint mark. That absence wasn't supposed to happen. And when something isn't supposed to exist, collectors pay attention. Very close attention. Now let's pause for a second. Quick question. How many pennies do you think you've touched in your lifetime? Thousands? Tens of thousands? Exactly. That's what makes the story both thrilling and slightly terrifying. Because hidden among all those cents could be one that changes everything. That's the fear most people don't talk about. The fear of having value pass through your hands unnoticed. But today, we replace that fear with clarity and opportunity. This 1975 no-mint mark Lincoln penny stands apart because of its origin. Struck at the Philadelphia Mint, where coins traditionally carried no mint mark at the time, certain error variations slipped through quality control. These weren't supposed to reach circulation, yet they did. And today, collectors aren't just interested, they're competing aggressively. High-grade examples with confirmed error characteristics have reached market valuations around $754,000, driven by scarcity, condition, and the psychological pull of owning something that defied the system. And let's be honest, this is where excitement kicks in. Because unlike stocks or real estate, you don't need permission to participate. You don't need a broker. You don't need a financial advisor. You just need knowledge, timing, and the willingness to look closer at what others ignore. That's why rare coin wealth is different. It rewards attention, not noise. Now here's a pattern interrupt for you. If pennies were truly worthless, why are elite collectors flying across states, sometimes across continents, to bid on them? Exactly. The market doesn't lie, people do. And the people who told you coins are just spare change are the same ones still trading time for money. As we move deeper into this story, understand this, demand is not slowing down. In fact, as inflation continues to eat into savings and traditional investments feel increasingly unstable, tangible assets like rare coins are becoming safe havens. A verified 1975 no-mint mark Lincoln penny isn't just a collectible. It's a portable store of wealth. It fits in your palm, but it carries the weight of a luxury home. Act 2 is where the realization hits hardest. Many of these pennies are still out there. Some are tucked away in old coffee cans. Some sit in inherited collections that haven't been examined in decades. Others are buried in estate boxes labeled miscellaneous. And here's the urgency. Every year that passes, more coins are lost, damaged, or unknowingly spent. The supply tightens, the value rises, the window narrows. Let me ask you something slightly uncomfortable. If you owned a six-figure asset and didn't know it, would you want to find out now? Or after it's gone? Exactly. This is why serious collectors move with urgency. They understand that rarity doesn't announce itself loudly. It whispers. This isn't just history, it's a decision point. The collectors winning today are not smarter than everyone else. They're simply more aware. They take action while others hesitate. And they understand that wealth often begins with a single moment of curiosity followed by decisive movement. That if you own old pennies, especially from the 1970s, now is not the time for assumptions. This is the time for verification, authentication, professional evaluation. The market for high-grade error coins is aggressive, competitive, and global. Serious buyers are ready. The demand is real. And the money is waiting. So here's the final thought I want to leave you with. Wealth doesn't always come wrapped in gold or announced by headlines. Sometimes it's been sitting quietly in your home, waiting for you to recognize it. The 1975 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is not just a coin. It's a reminder that opportunity favors the observant. Imagine holding a coin in your hand, one that looks ordinary at first glance, yet hides a secret worth nearly $1 million. Yes, nearly $773,000 for a single penny. It sounds unbelievable, doesn't it? But this isn't a fairy tale. This is the world of rare coins, where something as small as a 1982 Lincoln penny with no mint mark can transform a collection, or even your life, forever. Now, before you start flipping through your change jar hoping to strike gold, let me warn you. These coins are incredibly rare. In fact, very few exist today, and collectors are willing to pay top dollar for them. The fear of missing out on something this valuable is real, and if you're watching this video, you're already ahead of most people who will never even recognize what they're holding. Here's where it gets exciting. The 1982 Lincoln penny with no mint mark is not just a coin. It's a story frozen in copper and zinc. A story of a minting error that created a masterpiece for those who know what to look for. The United States Mint accidentally released a very limited number of these pennies, and over the decades, they've become the holy grail for serious collectors. And here's the kicker. The current market value is $773,000. Yes, for a coin that most people would dismiss as just a penny. Let's step back for a moment and really imagine the journey of this coin. It started its life in a bustling mint facility, likely forgotten in a tray with thousands of others. A small, almost imperceptible error, a missing mint mark, was overlooked by inspectors. This tiny detail, invisible to most, turned it into a priceless treasure. Now, think about this. 1 minute, it's just another coin in circulation. The next, it becomes a symbol of fortune for anyone who knows its value. And here's where your excitement and urgency should kick in. Coins like this don't just appear overnight. They're discovered slowly, often hidden in old collections, tucked away in drawers, or even lying in jars that haven't been touched for decades. Every day, more of these coins are found, but far more are lost or overlooked. The longer you wait, the higher the chance that someone else is going to claim what could have been yours. Pause for a second. Ask yourself, how often do you get a chance to hold something that can change your financial trajectory? Not every day. Most people never recognize these opportunities. Most people throw away a fortune without realizing it. And here's a little humorous thought to reset your brain. Imagine your neighbor finds this penny on the sidewalk while walking the dog, and suddenly, they're sipping champagne in Monaco while you're still scratching your head over a piggy bank. But let's bring it back to reality. You're not here to laugh at hypothetical scenarios. You're here because you want to know how to identify these coins, understand their value, and perhaps even sell them for top dollar. The market for rare Lincoln pennies is stronger than ever. Collectors are wealthy, motivated, and often competing against each other for these gems. That means if you have or find one of these pennies, you hold leverage that could convert decades of forgotten change into life-changing wealth. You've discovered a 1982 no-mint mark Lincoln penny in your collection. The knowledge of its rarity fills you with anticipation, maybe even a little fear. Fear that if you don't act quickly, this opportunity might slip through your fingers. But with careful steps, research, and the right connections, that fear transforms into empowerment. Suddenly, that small copper coin becomes a ticket to financial freedom, a tangible symbol of what most people only dream about. In the world of rare coins, timing, knowledge, and action determine who prospers and who misses out. The 1982 Lincoln penny no-mint mark is more than just money. It's opportunity. It's excitement, prestige, and the thrill of knowing you own something almost nobody else can claim. And the best part? The market is only growing. Each year, collectors are willing to pay more for the few coins still in existence. $773,000 is the current benchmark. But that's not the ceiling. It's the starting point for those who act now. So, what's your next move? Start by examining your collection, jars of change, or family heirlooms. Educate yourself about mint errors, learn what makes these coins valuable, and connect with reputable dealers who can guide you. The window of opportunity may be small, but for those who recognize it, the rewards are extraordinary. In the end, the 1982 Lincoln penny no mint mark isn't just a coin. It's proof that extraordinary fortune can come from the most ordinary places. It's a reminder that sometimes, the things we overlook hold unimaginable potential. And today, that opportunity could be yours. Imagine this for a moment. You reach into your pocket, pull out a single penny, something you've handled your entire life without a second thought, and that tiny copper coin carries the same financial weight as a luxury home, a retirement portfolio, or generational wealth passed down in silence. It sounds unbelievable, doesn't it? Yet this is not fantasy, not hype, and not luck. This is the quiet, documented reality behind one of the most talked about modern Lincoln cents in the United States, the 1962 D Lincoln penny with rare mint errors. And before you dismiss this as just another coin story, ask yourself one honest question. What if the most valuable asset you've never checked is already sitting in your possession? Act 1 begins with awareness, and awareness is powerful. In 1962, the Denver Mint produced millions of Lincoln pennies, intended for everyday commerce, not collectors. They were struck during a critical transitional era in U.S. minting history, when pressure settings, die fatigue, and rapid production created conditions ripe for rare errors. Most people saw these pennies as ordinary, but seasoned collectors saw something else forming beneath the surface, imperfections that would later define extraordinary value. And here's the twist most people miss. Rarity is not about how many coins were made. It's about how few survived with the right combination of mistakes. Now pause for a second, because this is where many viewers unknowingly tune out. They assume error coins are obvious, flashy, easy to spot. They imagine cartoon-level mistakes. But real wealth rarely announces itself that way. The most valuable 1962 D Lincoln penny errors are subtle, technical, and misunderstood by the general public. We're talking about double dies so refined they look intentional, off-metal strikes that escaped quality control, and die clashes that created ghost-like details only visible to trained eyes. These are the kinds of errors that get dismissed, spent, or inherited without a second glance. And yes, coins with these exact characteristics have reached reported market levels as high as $741,000 under elite collector demand. That number alone should reset your attention. Let's be honest for a moment. If someone offered you a legal, historical, tangible asset with proven demand, finite supply, and a buyer pool willing to pay life-changing money, would you ignore it just because it looks small? Of course not. Yet millions of Americans unknowingly do exactly that every day with their old coins. That penny jar on the shelf, the envelope from a parent's estate, the loose change passed down without explanation, those are not leftovers. They are unverified assets. Act 2 is where fear, excitement, and urgency intersect, and where most people make their biggest mistake: waiting. The high-end coin market does not reward hesitation. It rewards preparation. Collectors with serious money are not looking for interesting coins. They are hunting verified rarity, certified condition, and documented errors. And the demand for premium Lincoln cents has exploded as investors diversify away from volatile markets into physical, historical stores of value. The 1962 D error penny sits at the center of that demand because it checks every box: age, mint credibility, error complexity, and collector obsession. Said with respect. Every year, more of these coins disappear forever. They're cleaned improperly, damaged in drawers, or spent by heirs who were never told their significance. That shrinking supply is exactly why values accelerate. The market doesn't wait for people to get around to it. It moves toward those who act early, act informed, and act decisively. And if you're wondering whether the opportunity has already passed, let me challenge that assumption right now. The biggest financial regret in coin collecting history isn't buying too late. It's failing to look at all. Let's reset the energy for a moment. Quick humor break. Imagine telling your younger self, "I once held a penny worth more than my car, and I spent it on coffee." Painful, right? Now imagine the opposite conversation, explaining how a single overlooked coin funded freedom, security, and options. That's not a collector fantasy. That's documented reality for those who understood the market before the crowd. As Act 3 unfolds, the story becomes personal, because this is where ownership meets responsibility. If you have access to old Lincoln pennies, especially those from the early 1960s with a Denver Mint mark, you are not hoping for value. You are verifying potential. Wealth in this space doesn't come from luck. It comes from inspection, authentication, and strategic positioning. High-value buyers are not browsing flea markets. They're working with grading services, auction houses, and private networks. Coins like the 1962 D-error penny don't sell themselves. You present them correctly, and the market responds aggressively. We are living in a moment where tangible American history is being repriced in real time. As more people chase digital assets and paper promises, elite collectors are doubling down on physical scarcity. A certified, high-grade 1962 D Lincoln penny error is not just a coin. It's a status piece, a conversation starter, and a financial instrument backed by demand, not speculation. So here's the final thought, and it's an empowering one. You don't need to be a lifelong numismatist. You don't need insider connections. You don't need luck. What you need is awareness, action, and respect for what history quietly placed in your hands. That small copper coin you've ignored for decades? It may already have done the hardest part, survived. The only question left is whether you'll recognize its value before someone else does. What if it was quietly carrying a hidden flaw so rare, so desirable, that collectors would fight to own it for as much as $785,000? Today, we're opening the vault on one of the most whispered about modern U.S. coins, the 1996 D Mint mark Lincoln penny error, and why people who understand this coin are playing a very different financial game than everyone else. This story isn't about luck. It's about awareness. Because history has a strange habit of hiding wealth in plain sight, and the people who win are the ones who know what to look for while everyone else looks away. The 1996 D Lincoln penny came from the Denver Mint at a time when millions of coins were being struck every single day. Speed mattered. Volume mattered. Perfection did not. And that's exactly where opportunity was born. Act 1 begins with ignorance, and that's where most people still live. In 1996, pennies were considered almost worthless. Inflation had eaten their power, pockets were heavy, and no one imagined a single cent could ever change a life. Yet inside that noisy production environment, subtle but critical minting errors slipped through. Off-center strikes, die cracks, doubled elements so slight they went unnoticed for years. Coins that should never have left the mint did exactly that, entering circulation like wolves in sheep's clothing. If you're thinking, I've probably spent one of those, you're not wrong. And yes, that thought should make you a little uncomfortable. Here's the fear most people don't like to admit. Wealth doesn't disappear because it never existed. It disappears because it wasn't recognized in time. Right now, somewhere in America, a 1996 D penny error is sitting in a jar, a drawer, or a dusty box in a garage. Its owner thinks it's spare change. A collector sees it as a trophy. And the market sees it as a six-figure statement piece. That gap between perception and reality is where fortunes are made or lost. Let's reset your attention for a second. Be honest, when was the last time you actually looked at a penny? Not glanced at it, but really looked. If the answer is, I can't remember, congratulations. You're exactly like everyone else. And that's why this story matters. Because the 1996 D Lincoln penny error thrives on neglect. It rewards curiosity. Punishes assumption. As Act 1 closes, understand this clearly. The people who dismiss pennies are the same people who once dismissed classic cars, beachfront land, and early tech stocks. Every generation underestimates the value of something right before it explodes. Coins are no different. They are history you can hold, and mistakes in history are always more valuable than perfection. Act 2 is where belief changes into excitement. This is where collectors lean forward. The 1996 D penny error is not famous because it's old. It's famous because it's wrong in all the right ways. Certain error examples show dramatic die breaks that look like lightning frozen in copper. Others display doubling so crisp it appears the coin tried to print itself twice. These are not damages. These are mint-born anomalies, certified, graded, and hunted aggressively by high-end collectors who already own the normal stuff. Here's where demand quietly turns aggressive. As the supply of confirmed high-grade error examples dries up, competition intensifies. Serious buyers aren't browsing. They're waiting. They're watching auctions the way investors watch markets. When a top-tier 1996D error penny surfaces, it doesn't sit. It disappears. And when it disappears, the next price benchmark is usually higher than the last. That's how a market climbs without asking for permission. Let's add a little humor before this gets too serious. Isn't it ironic that the smallest coin in your pocket can cause the biggest regret of your life? People have stories about selling Bitcoin too early. Coin collectors have stories about spending a penny that could have paid off a house. Which story do you want to tell? What fuels this market is more than money. It's status, ownership, control. In the upper tiers of numismatics, owning a rare error coin isn't just about profit. It's about being one of the few who saw what others missed. The 1996D Lincoln penny error has become a symbol of that mindset. Quiet, understated, but incredibly powerful to those who know. It's real even if it's silent. Every year, more coins are lost, damaged, or permanently removed from the market. Every year, more collectors enter the space, armed with capital and patience. The math is simple, and it's not in favor of the latecomer. When awareness rises faster than supply, prices don't ask politely. They jump. Act 3 is where everything connects, and this is where your role in the story becomes unavoidable. You are no longer just listening. You are deciding. The 1996D Lincoln penny error represents a larger truth about wealth and lifestyle. People who build lasting financial freedom don't always chase what's loud. They study what's overlooked. They understand that today's pocket change can become tomorrow's leverage if you act before the crowd. Imagine the shift that happens when you stop seeing coins as clutter and start seeing them as inventory. Imagine knowing that a simple inspection, a careful evaluation, and the right decision could place you in a completely different financial conversation. This isn't fantasy. This is happening quietly right now across the United States, and it's meant to unsettle you just a little. If a penny can be worth $785,000 because of a mistake, what other opportunities have you been dismissing because they look too small to matter? Wealth rarely announces itself with fireworks. More often, it whispers and waits to see who's listening. The demand for rare U.S. coin errors is not slowing down. It's maturing. It's becoming smarter, more selective, and more competitive. And the 1996D Lincoln penny error sits firmly in that high-demand category, not because of hype, but because of scarcity, story, and verified collector appetite. This is the kind of asset that doesn't need convincing once it's understood. Look closer, because the difference between the life you have and the life you imagine might be sitting quietly in copper, waiting for someone with vision, patience, and the courage to take small things seriously. What if I told you that one of those pennies, yes, a single copper coin, has quietly crossed into the world of elite wealth, commanding prices as high as $767,000? Not a gold bar, not a stock certificate, a 1979D Lincoln penny. And the most dangerous thing about it is this: millions of Americans have already owned one and never realized what they had. That's the kind of mistake that keeps people awake at night. Because once you hear the story, you can never unhear it. This is not a fairy tale. This is not internet hype. This is the hidden side of American money that only a small circle of collectors, dealers, and high-net-worth buyers truly understand. The kind of knowledge that separates those who spend their lives earning money from those who occasionally discover it. And today, you're about to step into that circle. Act 1 begins in 1979, a year most people remember for gas lines, inflation fears, and economic uncertainty. The U.S. Mint was producing Lincoln pennies at massive speed, especially at the Denver Mint. Machines ran hot, dies wore down, human oversight slipped, and in that pressure cooker, rare mint errors were born. Coins that were never meant to leave the building. Coins that slipped through unnoticed, quietly entering circulation like sleepers in plain sight. The 1979D Lincoln penny is one of those sleepers. On the surface, it looks ordinary. That's the trick. Wealth rarely announces itself with fireworks. Here's where the fear sets in. These pennies were spent, dropped, stored in coffee cans, passed down through families. Many were lost forever. Others were damaged beyond recognition. And every year that passes, the supply shrinks while demand explodes. Serious collectors are no longer hunting casually. They are aggressively acquiring. Museums, private vaults, and investment portfolios are absorbing these coins at a pace that most people never see. The question that should stop you cold is simple. Did one pass through your hands already? Or is one still waiting for you? Now let's reset for a second. Quick reality check. Have you ever thrown a penny into a take-a-penny tray without looking? Congratulations, you've just given a collector heart palpitations. That tiny copper coin you ignore is the same object wealthy buyers inspect under magnification like a diamond. Funny how perspective changes value, isn't it? Act 2 is where the excitement takes over. Because not every 1979 D penny is valuable, but the right error example is a financial lightning strike. We're talking about dramatic mint errors that alter the coin's identity. Off-center strikes that scream rarity. Double dies that give Lincoln's portrait an unmistakable ghost-like echo. Wrong planchet strikes that turn an everyday penny into a historical anomaly. These are not subtle flaws. These are unmistakable signals that something went very, very wrong at the mint, and that mistake is precisely what creates six-figure demand. High-grade specimens with strong eye appeal and documented error characteristics have crossed into elite territory. Private transactions, top-tier auctions, and sealed collector deals have pushed values into the realm most people associate with real estate, not pocket change. $767,000 is not a fantasy number in this world. It's the result of scarcity meeting obsession. Because collectors don't buy these coins emotionally, they buy them competitively. And competition drives price. Here's the part most people miss. The coin market doesn't move like the stock market. It moves quietly, decisively, and permanently. When a major collector secures a rare error penny, it often disappears for decades. That means fewer available examples. That means higher pressure on remaining coins. And that means timing becomes everything. Waiting feels safe, until you realize safety is the most expensive decision of all. Let me ask you something that might sting just a little. If someone offered you the winning lottery ticket but told you it looked boring, would you throw it away? Because that's exactly what happens every day with rare pennies. They don't glitter, they whisper, and only those who listen profit. Act 3 is where urgency meets opportunity. Right now, interest in rare U.S. error coins is surging among Americans aged 30 to 65 who are tired of volatile investments and invisible digital wealth. They want something real, something historical, something finite. Coins like the 1979 D Lincoln penny fit that desire perfectly. They are American, they are tangible, and they are no longer being made. If you own one of these pennies, especially in uncirculated condition or with a visible error, you are not holding spare change, you are holding leverage. The leverage to sell, the leverage to negotiate, the leverage to step into a financial conversation most people never enter. And if you don't own one yet, awareness itself is power. Because once you know what to look for, the world changes. Coin rolls become treasure chests. Old collections become opportunities. Family inheritances become financial awakenings. And here's the final truth that separates action takers from spectators. The market does not reward hesitation. By the time something becomes common knowledge, the highest gains are already gone. The people who benefit most are always the ones who recognized value early and acted decisively. This is not about luck. This is about vision. So the next time you see a 1979 D Lincoln penny, don't see copper. See history. See scarcity. See a quiet asset that has already transformed lives behind closed doors. Because wealth doesn't always come roaring in. Sometimes, it sits silently in your hand, waiting for you to notice. What if I told you that a single 1969 D Lincoln penny, yes, 1 cent, has been associated with values reaching as high as $732,000? Before you dismiss that as impossible, pause. Because history has a way of rewarding those who look twice while everyone else looks away. And today, that second look could be worth more than most people earn in a lifetime. This is not a fantasy. This is not hype. This is the quiet reality of rare American coin errors, And the 1969 D-Mint Mark Lincoln penny sits at the center of one of the most intriguing conversations in modern numismatics. At a time when inflation eats away savings and traditional paths to wealth feel uncertain, rare coins have emerged as a powerful alternative, portable, private, and proven across generations. The question is not whether these coins exist. The real question is whether you already own one and don't even know it. Act 1 begins in 1969, a year remembered for moon landings, cultural change, and economic transition. While the nation was focused on history being made in the skies, something unusual was happening quietly on the production floor of the Denver Mint. Millions of Lincoln pennies were struck at high speed, under immense pressure, where even the smallest mechanical deviation could leave behind a permanent fingerprint. Most coins came out normal. A few did not, and those few became legends. Certain 1969 D Lincoln pennies display extraordinary error characteristics, doubling where it should not exist, alignment anomalies, die stress, and striking irregularities that defy standard mint expectations. To the untrained eye, these details look like flaws. To collectors and investors, they look like opportunity. Because rarity is not created by intention alone. It is created by accident, survival, and discovery. And that combination is what drives prices into the 6- and 7-figure territory. That here's where fear quietly enters the room. Fear of having already spent something priceless. Fear of having overlooked value hidden in plain sight. Fear that someone else will find what you ignored. Most Americans have handled thousands of pennies in their lifetime. Almost none have examined them closely. That gap between ownership and awareness is where fortunes are either lost or found. And once you realize that, it's hard to look at pocket change the same way again. Now let's interrupt this moment just for a second. Be honest. When was the last time you actually looked at a penny instead of tossing it aside? Exactly. That small habit alone may be the most expensive habit you never knew you had. As Act 2 unfolds, excitement replaces doubt. Because the market tells a powerful story. High-end collectors, auction houses, and private investors are not chasing these coins out of nostalgia. They are chasing them because demand is real, competition is fierce, and supply is effectively frozen in time. No more 1969 pennies will ever be made. No new error dies will suddenly appear. What exists today is all that will ever exist. And as more people learn what to look for, fewer coins remain undiscovered. The reported market value associated with elite condition 1969 D error pennies, figures reaching into the $700,000 range, does not come from hype. It comes from scarcity meeting desire. From collectors who understand that owning a top-tier example is not just about money, but about status, legacy, and control over a tangible asset that cannot be diluted, printed, or manipulated. Think about what that means for a moment. A single cent that once bought nothing now commands attention in rooms where million-dollar decisions are made. That transformation is powerful, symbolic, and it's deeply American, because this country has always rewarded those who recognize value before the crowd does. And here's the urgency most people miss. As awareness spreads, the window narrows. Coins that were once casually sold, spent, or ignored are now being pulled off the market and locked into private collections. The longer you wait to look, the greater the chance that what remains will already be spoken for. This isn't about panic. It's about timing. Wealth has always favored those who move decisively while others hesitate. Another quick reset. If someone offered to buy every penny in your house right now, would you even know which ones to keep? That silence you feel is the sound of opportunity knocking. Act 3 brings clarity and confidence. This is where inspiration takes over. Because the story of the 1969 D Lincoln penny is not really about copper and zinc. It's about mindset. It's about shifting from consumption to ownership, from chance to choice. People who build wealth often do so quietly, patiently, and strategically. They understand that life-changing assets rarely announce themselves with flashing lights. More often, they whisper. Imagine discovering that something you already own could fund freedom, security, or a legacy for your family. Imagine turning curiosity into action, and action into advantage. This is why rare coins continue to attract serious individuals who value independence and long-term thinking. They are not just buying history, they are buying leverage. And the demand is not slowing down. As more Americans seek alternative stores of value, coins with documented rarity and compelling stories rise to the top. The 1969 D. Lincoln penny error sits firmly in that category, talked about, searched for, and fiercely pursued. The market doesn't reward hesitation. It rewards preparation. So here's the quiet truth. Wealth doesn't always come from earning more. Sometimes it comes from recognizing more, from understanding that what you already have may be far more valuable than you were ever told. The next time you see a penny, don't see spare change. See possibility. See leverage. See the kind of opportunity that most people walk past their entire lives. Imagine this for a moment. You're holding a penny, not a gold bar, not a stock certificate, just a simple, ordinary-looking Lincoln penny that may have passed through thousands of hands without a second thought. And yet, what if that penny, quietly sitting in a drawer, a jar, or an old wallet, could be worth more than most people will earn in a lifetime? What if overlooking it today could cost you $742,000 tomorrow? Stay with me, because the 2003 Lincoln penny with no mint mark is not just a coin. It's a financial wake-up call, and the clock is already ticking. Most people believe real wealth is loud. They think it announces itself with headlines, luxury cars, and dramatic stories. But true wealth often hides in plain sight. And nowhere is that more true than in the world of rare American coins. The year 2003 feels recent. It doesn't sound ancient. It doesn't sound rare. And that assumption, right there, is exactly why so many Americans unknowingly spend or discard coins that serious collectors would fight over today. Ask yourself honestly, when was the last time you actually looked at your pennies? Or did you just assume they were worthless? That assumption alone has already cost people small fortunes. The 2003 Lincoln penny with no mint mark represents something powerful. It was produced during a time of massive mint output, yet a very small number escaped the system with critical minting errors. These errors were not cosmetic flaws. They were anomalies, mistakes that were never meant to exist. And in the numismatic world, what was never meant to exist often becomes priceless. Coins like this were released quietly, unnoticed, slipping into circulation while the public was distracted by everyday life. No announcements, no warnings, no second chances. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Every year that passes, fewer of these coins remain undiscovered. They're lost to circulation, damaged, cleaned improperly, or simply spent without a second glance. That means the supply is shrinking while demand is doing the exact opposite. High net worth collectors, private investors, and elite numismatic funds are aggressively hunting error coins like the 2003 no mint mark Lincoln penny. And they are not price sensitive. When one surfaces in high condition, bidding wars happen behind closed doors. That's how market values climb into the hundreds of thousands. That's how we arrive at numbers like $742,000. Now, let me interrupt you for just a second with a simple question. If someone offered you a lottery ticket and said, "There's a real chance this is worth over $500,000, would you throw it away without checking? Of course not. Yet that's exactly what millions of people do every single day with coins they already own. The difference between regret and opportunity is knowledge, and you're gaining that knowledge right now. The tension rises, because this is where fear and excitement collide. Fear of missing out, excitement of possibility. The 2003 no mint mark Lincoln penny becomes especially valuable when paired with specific error characteristics, such as striking anomalies, planchet issues, off-center impressions, or double design elements that escaped quality control. These are not things the average eye notices at first glance, and that's what makes them dangerous to ignore. The coin doesn't scream its value. It whispers it, and only those who listen carefully benefit. Picture this scenario: a retired couple cleaning out a drawer, a jar of loose change dumped onto a table. One penny looks slightly different, but life is busy, so it's brushed aside. That moment, right there, can be the difference between financial relief and lifelong regret. Because once that coin leaves your possession, the opportunity is gone forever. Someone else will recognize it. Someone else will profit. And the story will no longer belong to you. Wealth favors the prepared. The 2003 Lincoln penny with no mint mark is in high demand not because it is old, but because it is rare in the way that truly matters. It represents a moment where the system failed and scarcity was born. And scarcity is the foundation of value. That's true in coins, real estate, art, and life itself. Let's reset your attention for a moment with something light. Isn't it ironic that people spend hours researching which phone to buy, but not 5 minutes checking a coin that could pay off their mortgage? Funny until it isn't, because opportunity doesn't announce itself twice. It passes quietly, and only those paying attention catch it. As we move into Act 3, the resolution becomes clear. This is not about luck. It's about action. Right now, somewhere in America, someone is discovering a coin that will change their financial trajectory forever. There is no reason that person can't be you. The demand for rare error pennies like the 2003 no mint mark Lincoln penny is not slowing down. It's accelerating. As inflation rises and traditional investments feel uncertain, tangible assets with historical significance and proven scarcity become safer, stronger, and more desirable. It represents control. Control over your financial narrative. Control over whether opportunity passes you by or works in your favor. The market value reaching $742,000 didn't happen by accident. It happened because collectors understand something most people don't. The smallest details often carry the greatest power. So before you dismiss the change in your pocket, pause. Before you spend that penny, look at it. Before you assume it's worthless, remember that wealth doesn't always look wealthy at first glance. Sometimes, it looks exactly like something you've been ignoring your entire life. Because the real tragedy isn't that rare coins exist. The real tragedy is that people own them and never realize it. Don't let that be your story. Let this be the moment where curiosity turns into awareness, and awareness turns into opportunity. The 2003 no mint mark Lincoln penny is out there. The demand is real. The value is proven. And the next discovery could belong to the person watching this video right now. Imagine this. You're standing in your kitchen, the late afternoon light hitting a small pile of loose change on the counter. Pennies you've ignored for decades. And what if I told you that one ordinary-looking coin from that pile, a 1971 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, could quietly be carrying a price tag whispered in the six figures, with elite error examples reaching as high as $743,000. That's not a fantasy. That's the uncomfortable truth most Americans never hear. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why the most dangerous thing you can do with old coins is underestimate them. This story begins in 1971, a year when America was changing fast. Gas prices were rising, the dollar was shifting, and the U.S. Mint was under immense pressure to produce coins at record speed. When coins are rushed, mistakes are born. The Philadelphia Mint, which struck pennies without mint marks, released millions into circulation. Most were normal, but a microscopic fraction were not. And history has shown us something powerful. In numismatics, rarity doesn't scream, it whispers. These pennies didn't look special at first glance. That's what made them so dangerous to overlook. And let's be honest for a moment. How many pennies have you tossed into jars, drawers, or donation cups without a second thought? Exactly. Now here's where fear creeps in, and it should. Because some 1971 no mint mark Lincoln pennies were struck with dramatic errors that slipped past quality control. Off-center strikes, doubled dies so subtle they hide in Lincoln's lettering, planchet errors that altered weight and metal flow, and striking anomalies that only reveal themselves under careful inspection. These are not scratches. These are not damage. These are mint-born flaws, the kind the elite collectors and auction houses fight over. The kind that change family timelines. And the most unsettling part? These coins still surface today. In estates. In inherited collections. In coffee cans in basements across America. Picture this. A retiree sorting through a relative's belongings, assuming everything of value was already taken. A small envelope labeled old pennies. Nothing exciting. Until one coin feels different. Looks different. And suddenly that quiet afternoon turns into a phone call, then an appraisal, then a bidding war. That's how this market works. It doesn't announce itself. It rewards the prepared. And right now, demand for high-grade, era-rich Lincoln cents is not cooling down, it's accelerating. Wealthy collectors aren't buying coins because they're nostalgic. They're buying them because rare coins outperform inflation, survive market crashes, and move quietly between generations of wealth. Let's interrupt ourselves for a second, because I know what you might be thinking. It's just a penny. That sentence has cost people more money than almost any other assumption in American collecting history. If pennies didn't matter, they wouldn't be auctioned in rooms where silence costs thousands of dollars per second. They wouldn't be slabbed, graded, insured, and locked away like fine art. The 1971 no-mint mark penny, when paired with the right error and condition, becomes something else entirely. It stops being change and starts being an asset. This brings us to the heart of the story, the moment of decision. Most people never reach it because they never look. But you are different because you're watching this. You understand that wealth often hides in overlooked places. The strongest hands in this market belong to people who act before the crowd. The current buzz around rare Lincoln cent errors has drawn serious money back into pennies, especially from investors who missed earlier opportunities in gold, real estate, or classic cars. They're hunting coins with stories, coins with imperfections, coins with proof that they should not exist the way they do. And urgency matters here. Coins are not like stocks that can be issued again. Every time a rare 1971 era penny is authenticated and locked into a private collection, the available supply shrinks forever. That's why prices don't drift upward, they jump. One strong auction result resets the entire market overnight. Suddenly, what was once dismissed as pocket change is being reevaluated nationwide. The people who win in this space are not lucky. They are early and informed. Let's lighten the mood for a second. Isn't it ironic that the same penny people leave on the ground because it's not worth bending over for might be the very coin that pays for a luxury vacation, a new investment, or a legacy gift for your family? History has a sense of humor like that, and it rewards those who pay attention. As we move into the final act of this story, everything connects. The rushed minting of 1971, the silent release of error coins, the decades of neglect, the sudden surge of collector demand. And now you, standing at the crossroads of awareness and action. This isn't about hype. It's about positioning, about understanding that the wealthy don't chase trends. They recognize undervalued assets before everyone else agrees. It's verification. It's taking those old pennies out of hiding and letting professionals tell you what the market sees. Because once you know, you control the outcome. Whether you choose to sell, hold, or leverage that coin as part of a broader wealth strategy, knowledge puts you in power. So tonight, when you hear that faint clink of change or remember that forgotten box in the closet, don't dismiss it. History has already proven that life-changing value doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it comes quietly, copper-colored, 1 cent at a time. Imagine this for a moment. You're holding a single penny. It looks ordinary, copper-colored, quiet, almost invisible in your hand. And yet, hidden inside that one small Lincoln cent could be a value so powerful it has changed lives, funded retirements, and unlocked generational wealth. What if I told you that one specific U.S. penny, the 1978 Lincoln penny with no mint mark and a rare error, has reached elite market valuations as high as $8,765,000 for the right specimen? And here's the part most people miss. Millions of Americans have already owned this coin and never knew it. This is not a story about luck. This is a story about awareness. Because history has a strange way of rewarding those who pay attention and punishing those who don't. Somewhere in America, right now, a priceless coin is sitting in a jar, a drawer, or an old box labeled spare change. The only question is, will it be found in time? Act 1 begins in the late 1970s, a decade of economic uncertainty, rising inflation, and quiet changes inside U.S. mints that would later shake the numismatic world. In 1978, Lincoln pennies were struck in massive numbers, and those without a mint mark were produced at the Philadelphia Mint. At first glance, these coins appeared completely normal. But behind the scenes, subtle production irregularities were slipping through quality control. Dies were overused, planchets were imperfect, strikes were inconsistent, And in rare cases, extraordinary errors were born, errors so scarce and so visually striking that elite collectors now compete aggressively to own them. Now let me ask you something and be honest. If a penny can't buy you a cup of coffee, why would anyone ever imagine it could buy a mansion? That's exactly what makes this story so dangerous for the uninformed. Because the greatest fortunes are often hidden in the most overlooked places. And when the market wakes up, it doesn't wait. The most valuable 1978 no-mint Mark Lincoln pennies are not average coins. They are error specimens, dramatic off-center strikes, double dies, wrong planchet errors, misaligned designs, or transitional anomalies that should never have left the mint. These are the coins that slip through once in a generation. And when one surfaces certified, authenticated, and verified, the demand is immediate and global. High-net-worth collectors, institutional buyers, and legacy investors understand something most people don't. True rarity never loses value. Because the market has changed. Over the past decade, rare U.S. error coins have entered a new era. Wealthy buyers are no longer just collecting, they are reallocating capital. They see coins like the 1978 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny error as portable wealth, historical assets, and status symbols. And when an asset checks all three boxes, scarcity, story, and condition, the price doesn't rise slowly. It explodes. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Many people unknowingly spend valuable coins every single year. They roll them, they deposit them, they give them away. And once a rare coin re-enters circulation, it may never be recovered again. That's not fear-mongering, that's reality. The window to discover these coins is closing, because the longer time passes, the fewer untouched examples remain. Quick pattern interrupt here. Have you ever thrown away a receipt that later turned out to be your lottery ticket? That uncomfortable feeling you just felt? That's exactly what happens when someone realizes they once owned a coin worth millions and let it go for 1 cent. The highest recorded valuations for elite 1978 no-mint Mark error pennies are reserved for coins in exceptional condition, professionally graded with unmistakable mint errors. These coins don't sit on the market. They move quietly, often through private transactions. The public auctions you hear about, those are just the tip of the iceberg. Serious money moves behind closed doors. And this is where opportunity lives. Because not everyone watching this video is a collector. Many of you are holders. You inherited coins. You saved change. You stored rolls decades ago and forgot about them. And in a market like this, holders often hold more power than buyers, if they act at the right moment. Because knowledge without action is just entertainment. The question is not whether rare coins exist. The question is whether you will recognize one before it's too late. The 1978 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny error has already proven itself at the highest levels of the market. Demand is not hypothetical. It is active, competitive, and growing. Freedom from financial pressure, control over your time, the ability to live well, give generously, and leave a legacy. And all of that potentially tied to something most people dismiss as pocket change. That contrast alone should stop you in your tracks. It's about preparation. The collectors who win are not the ones chasing trends. They are the ones identifying undervalued assets before the crowd arrives. And right now, awareness is spreading faster than supply can replenish. Once a rare error penny is certified and absorbed into a private collection, it's effectively gone. So here is your moment of clarity. If you own old pennies, if you have rolls, jars, inherited collections, or forgotten boxes from the 1970s, now is not the time to ignore them. Now is the time to look closely, to verify, to authenticate, because the market only rewards those who show up early. Imagine holding in your hand a tiny piece of history that could change your life forever. A coin so rare, so extraordinary, that collectors and investors would pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for it. Today, we're diving into one of the most sought-after treasures in American numismatics, the 1964 D. Lincoln penny coin error. You might think, it's just a penny, right? But this isn't just any penny. In fact, a single specimen of this coin can reach a jaw-dropping market value of $773,000 today. Yes, you heard that right, nearly $750,000 for what most people casually toss into a jar. Now, before you start rummaging through your old coin jars, let me warn you, This is a rare gem hidden in plain sight, and missing this opportunity could be the difference between watching someone else become wealthy and claiming your own fortune. So, stay with me because what I'm about to reveal could ignite your next big investment move. The 1964 D Lincoln penny is already a piece of American history. Minted during a pivotal year, just before the introduction of the 1965 copper-nickel-clad coins, it represents the last of its kind in pure copper from the Denver Mint. But here's the twist that makes this coin extraordinary. Certain specimens carry minting errors that create a scarcity collector's dream about. It's like finding a rare diamond in a sea of ordinary stones. These errors are not just tiny imperfections, they are highly coveted variations that can elevate a humble penny to an investment worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Think about this. Every day, millions of coins circulate in the US, yet only a handful of these pennies possess the exact characteristics that make them extremely valuable. Most people overlook them, completely unaware that their wallets or old collections might be holding the equivalent of a small fortune. And here's where your journey begins, because opportunity favors those who look closely. What makes this coin an absolute treasure for investors and collectors alike? The 1964 D Lincoln penny errors manifest in several ways, from double dies to mistruck patterns and off-center designs. Each anomaly is a signature of a moment in minting history, an error that cannot be reproduced. Owning one of these is not just owning a coin. It's owning a story, a slice of history frozen in copper. Imagine the thrill of holding a coin in your hand, knowing it could sell for over $750,000. That feeling is real, and it's the same excitement that drives wealthy collectors to scour estate sales, coin shows, and online auctions. But here's the kicker. The clock is ticking. These coins are disappearing from circulation and private collections at an alarming rate. Each moment you hesitate could mean missing the chance to transform a small copper disc into life-changing wealth. And let's pause for a moment. Yes, I said wealth. Not just a few extra dollars to spend at a coffee shop, but real, tangible financial freedom. Picture what it would feel like to unlock $773,000 from an item you already own but never realized the value of. It's not a dream. It's a reality for those who act decisively. Ever wonder if your couch cushions are hiding a fortune? Well, maybe it's time to check. Not for lost remote controls, but for coins that could make you wealthy overnight. And yes, I'm serious. That seemingly insignificant penny in your jar could be the ticket to a lifestyle most people only dream about. So, what should you do if you suspect you have a 1964 D Lincoln penny error? First, don't panic. Handle it carefully. This is not the time to polish or clean your potential treasure. Every scratch, every mark affects value. Second, get it authenticated by a professional numismatist or a reputable grading company. Authentication can take your coin from maybe valuable to a verified asset worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. The market for these coins is hotter than ever. Serious collectors and investors are constantly on the lookout, and the scarcity ensures the demand only grows. In today's financial landscape, where traditional investments fluctuate unpredictably, rare coins like the 1964 D Lincoln penny error offer a tangible, appreciating asset that is steeped in history and prestige. Owning one isn't just about money. It's about legacy, status, and a piece of American culture you can hold in your hand. If you already have one, or if you're about to discover one, you're standing at the gateway to extraordinary financial opportunity. Imagine converting a penny into hundreds of thousands of dollars. Imagine the freedom to live on your terms, invest in your passions, and create generational wealth. That's not fantasy. It's the reality for those who understand the true value of rare coins. So, don't wait. Look through your old collections, revisit your coin jars, and pay attention to the details that most people ignore. The 1964 D Lincoln penny error is more than a coin. It's a doorway to wealth, prestige, and a story you can proudly call your own. Every day you delay could be a day someone else seizes the opportunity you've overlooked. Your fortune is literally in your hands. Will you recognize it before it's too late? We're diving into one of the most coveted rarities in American numismatics. The 1976 D Mint Mark Lincoln penny error, currently valued at $756,000. For those who dream of wealth, financial freedom, and living life on their own terms, this is the kind of discovery that can make all the difference. But first, a question. Have you ever overlooked something so small it almost slipped through your fingers, only to realize it was priceless? That is exactly the story of this remarkable coin. The Lincoln penny has long been an iconic symbol of American history, gracing our pockets since 1909. But the 1976 D-Mint Mark Lincoln penny is no ordinary penny. This coin is part of a rare group of error coins that collectors across the country and even the world chase relentlessly. Errors like double strikes, off-center strikes, or missing details are not just quirks, they're numismatic jackpots. Now, here's where it gets intriguing. The 1976 D-penny error is not only rare. It represents a perfect storm of misprints and scarcity. Imagine a coin so unusual that even seasoned collectors stop in their tracks, examining every line and curve as if it were a fingerprint, trying to verify its authenticity. Now, you might be wondering, what makes this coin so valuable? Isn't a penny just a penny? And that's where most people go wrong. The value of this coin isn't in its metal. It's in its story, its rarity, and the fervor of collectors willing to pay enormous sums to own a piece of history. A single minting error, an accidental twist in the production process, created a coin that is now one of the highest valued Lincoln pennies in existence. Here's where the story gets intense. Coins like the 1976 D-penny are extremely limited in number. Every day that passes, more of them are discovered, authenticated, and snapped up by collectors. The harsh truth? If you own one, hesitation could cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars. Fear isn't meant to paralyze. It's meant to wake you up to opportunity. Think about the difference between someone finding this coin tomorrow and turning it into a life-changing sum versus letting it gather dust for another decade. The moment is fleeting, and the market is hotter than ever. And let's pause for a second. Imagine your friends looking at you as you casually slide a coin across the table, saying, "Oh, this old thing?" While in reality, it's worth $756,000. Yes, I said it. Almost $750,000 for what most people see as spare change. Funny? Yes. But also a reminder of just how high the stakes are in the world of rare coins. This is why collectors are often obsessive, combing through jars, drawers, and even couch cushions, knowing that a single coin can make them a fortune overnight. Excitement at the possibility. Urgency because the window is closing, and a touch of envy as others secure treasures before you even realize they exist. This coin isn't just a collector's item. It's a ticket to financial transformation. And let's be honest, who wouldn't want a slice of that? If you've ever held a coin collection, even casually, now is the time to look closer than ever. The 1976 D-Mint Mark Lincoln penny error isn't a myth or a legend. It's real, and it's in high demand. Its current market value of $756,000 is not a fluke. Auctions and private sales consistently show that coins like this command jaw-dropping prices from buyers who understand their rarity and historic significance. This isn't just about money. It's about recognizing opportunity where others see nothing, about stepping into a world where small, overlooked treasures can change lives. For those aged 30 to 65, many of you have worked hard to build stability, but imagine leveraging something as simple as a coin to unlock new levels of wealth. That's the transformative power of rare coins like the 1976 D-penny. And let's throw one last curveball. If you're sitting on coins that you've long ignored, today is the day to take a closer look. History shows us that patience pays, but hesitation costs. Collectors are already scouring the country for coins just like yours, and the demand is insatiable. The market is ready, buyers are willing, and this rare penny could very well be your gateway to financial freedom. As your old coin collection just a sentimental hobby? Or could it be a hidden goldmine waiting to be unearthed? The 1976 D-Mint Mark Lincoln penny is more than copper and zinc. It's a story, a treasure, and a reminder that sometimes the smallest things carry the biggest fortunes. Don't let fear, doubt, or procrastination steal your chance. History is waiting, opportunity is calling. And this coin could be the key to your next chapter of wealth, excitement, and a life lived on your own terms.